Welcome to the Young Granny Show. I'm your host, Brittany. We're skipping the midlife crisis and diving straight into the cozy world of all things young granny. I will highlight artists and creators who share their passion for slow living, creativity, and the art of a handmade life. So grab your yarn, a cup of tea, and let's get started. Terry, welcome to the Young Granny Show. It's been a wild adventure getting this to record.
Yes.
This is technically our second recording session, but we've spent the last hour trying to get it to record. So hopefully this one, technically third time, hopefully third time's the charm.
Mm-hmm.
Well, welcome again to the Young Granny Show. Thrilled to have you on. Let's get started getting to know a little bit about you. Tell us about your comfort cup today.
Oh, love is all you need.
That's very cute. And what do you have in it?
I just have some coffee with lots of cream.
Nice. That's a classic. Always needed. All right. Well, Terry is from Enchanted Makeovers. So Terry herself, she is a crafter, but we wanted to have her on to talk about Enchanted Makeovers, which is a company that you run. You started about, 17 years ago?
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about Enchanted Makeovers and how you got started.
Enchanted Makeovers is a nonprofit, and obviously we started 17 years ago. We serve women and children escaping human trafficking, domestic violence, and female homeless veterans. So we go to shelters and provide our programs, which we have several. How it began was I was just asked to volunteer and paint one wall, and I never thought it would turn into a national nonprofit.
Yes. Yep. So 17 years ago, you were asked to come into a shelter and paint a wall. What were you doing at the time?
I had a decorating business,
Mm-hmm.
and it was just for residential homes. And it was really more about giving women hope than decorating, even though I did provide that service. And turned into just one of my clients telling her client about what I did to help heal her home and heal her. And this gentleman said, well, I do fundraising for the shelter. You think she'll come and just paint one wall? And I did the visit in January of 2007, and it changed the course of my life.
Yeah. So when you walked into that shelter, what did you see?
Well, the last stop was the women's dorm, and the women stay at the shelter for a year with their children. Everything in the dorm was broken. I mean, the beds came from a prison, the bedspreads from a nursing home, the ceiling lights were hanging by wires, walls had duct tape, the cribs had duct tape. I said, "Where's the dressers?" "Well, we use boxes." I was just totally overwhelmed, and I told myself I didn't say it out loud, but I just did want to be there because I didn't have the money or volunteers to take on this project. And the room was just filled with just sadness. And I just took before, and I told the director, I don't know if there's anything I can do. And she said, I totally understand. And I drove home, and at that time you downloaded photos.
Yeah.
You weren't using your cell phone.
Yeah.
And
it's a click and shoot camera.
Yeah, so you use your camera. And I just said, I'm not looking at those photos. But obviously a week had passed, and I had that pressure on my heart to you better look at those photos. And I downloaded them, and there it was on that stained mattress, 2 pillows, no pillowcases. And it was just soft white polka dots. And I've loved polka dots since I was a little girl. And I heard, trust me. In that moment, I just raised my right hand and I said, I'll do it. And I had no idea how I was going to get the money, the volunteers. I just knew that I know I can say this now. At the time, I didn't say it out loud, but I was really being called for something greater. And I feel that God needed to use me to really, for this job description that was being written for me. And I said yes. I didn't have any answers. I just started really walking by faith and just going out and asking for donations. That's the only thing I knew to do.
Yeah. 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 What was the process like when you had your materials and you walked into the shelter and you transformed it?
Well, it did take several months because everything we needed. And we really started with the painters coming in. Once we started doing that, we noticed there was mold, and then there's stuff that needed to be cleaned, and it was just opened a big can of worms. But we got all that taken care of. Once the painting was done, then the mural artist came in, painted the staircase. I want it to be enchanted forest. I want it to be hidden messages for the women. Like one of them was a bird's nest, and the mother was feeding her babies, but then another mother was praising her.
Mm.
So it was a whole thing of just supporting each other. Then there was little hidden signs. One that said, when you're down to nothing, God is up to something. So, because the women had to go up and down the staircase every day. And I wanted them to be able to just, I think words hold power. They can uplift
Yeah.
or destroy a life.
Yeah.
So it was all purposely put there. Once that was done is when we brought in, it was one day of setting up this whole dorm with handmade curtains and beautiful quilts and embroidered pillowcases. And women just started sharing their heart. They said they feel like they're living in a dollhouse, which to me, that message is, I feel precious.
Mm.
And who doesn't want to feel precious? Especially when you have a life that everything's been so rough.
Yeah.
That's what the women have always shared is we've never known another world, but everything broken besides our life, but everything we could see with our eyes, everything was broken.
Yeah.
So that's just a step. We know our environment affects us physically and mentally. So I want it to be another way for the women to be successful with the program. So that it's not a revolving door. So if it's a big piece of not only therapy that the women have to go to, they have in that program they had to work, there was church. Your environment shouldn't have to work against you while you're working on all those other pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we did get a lot of reports back of how the women finished the program and went to transitional housing. And that's what it's all about is, the shelter is the first stepping stone.
Yeah.
The women don't go to transitional first.
Right.
So after that is when you go out and you find your own apartment. So it
Yeah.
went from there, just finishing that dorm, and I'm just saying, okay, I'm finished. I'm not doing anything more. I'm going back to my decorating business.
There was a much bigger calling for you
Yes,
than
I
that.
didn't know that at the time. I was
Yeah.
kind of fighting it because it was a lot of work. And
Yeah. Yeah. And at the time, you had 4 little kids.
yes, yeah,
Um,
my youngest was just starting kindergarten. She was full time in kindergarten when all that started.
yeah. Yeah. And that must have hit you much differently back then too, being in a similar spot, um, raising your own kids as these moms going into these shelters were, right? You could relate to the life phase that they were in.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's really, I mean, taking that step is I'm going to go in this program and I'm going to stick to it. I mean, to see other children in the shelter. I mean, I had children at home,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I mean, all the women shared their stories with me. I shared meals with them, and it wasn't. It's never been about decorating,
Yeah.
because if it was, I would have kept my decorating business.
Yeah.
It's really the transformation of people And because the women leave the shelter, it's but I think with the murals that are done and everything that is touched and just love in every detail, that never leaves your heart. That is part of the healing process, and I believe that's what the women carry with them when they leave that shelter.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Um, your mom has been a big inspiration for a lot of the programs that you've put in place. Um, and a lot of your mission too. You quote her often. So tell us a little bit about your mom.
My mom is a warrior. That's the first thing. She is all about creativity, imagination. As young as I can remember, I think it was second grade is when I said, I want a gift for Mrs. Campbell. That was my second grade teacher. So she was a ceramic teacher, my mother. And she's like, I'll make her a frog. And it was a frog crossing the legs that she could put over her file cabinet.
Yeah.
And it was from obviously sewing. My mother sewed everything. I mean, she took sheets and turned them to curtains. And my school play, we go to the thrift store, and she's, all these sheets are going to be your, because I had that, like the Little House in the Prairie outfit with the little bonnet and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And I still have it.
Oh.
But I didn't know that was her way of coping with her depression too.
Mm.
So she could take care of her family. But she said, when I sew, I escape. I don't think about no dishes, how filthy the house is, bills. She says, I ain't focusing on that project, but I know I'm also taking care of my children. So we all win. And she's still sewing to this day. Her latest project is this little ballerina that she's made, but has layers and layers to her tutu. And she
Oh.
makes doll houses. She has several doll houses. Everything's made by hand.
Yeah.
She does not buy the furniture. So she's still keeping her hands busy.
Yeah.
And she is the inspiration to obviously our sacred sewing room, because we have permanent sewing rooms and shelters. So it wasn't really rocket science when she said a sewing machine saved her life. I knew in that moment we had to include that as one of our programs.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, it's when we lost our home when I think I was 8 or 9, she just put us in the station wagon, went driving around. We found a house on the side of the road. It was abandoned, weeds, tires in the front yard. And she went next door. The church said, we own it. And she said, can I put a deposit down and hopefully one day own it? And they said, of course. And I remember my mother, she put her face against the door of the house. And later she wrote a poem about that. And it was all about how she drove up to the home and what she saw. And why she placed her face on is she said to her, I promise you, I will love you back to life. I will take care of you. No one will ever abandon you. It's called The Promise.
Mm.
And my mom's 77, and she said, I will never leave her. So she restored the house, and it was all with clearance wallpaper, oopsie paint. I'd come home from school, a wall was knocked down, and I'm like, what are you doing, Mom? She's, well, we really don't need that wall. And we got to witness as children this transformation of not only our home, but it was a transformation of my mother,
Yeah.
because she was rebuilding herself.
Yeah.
So she's a lot of Enchanted Makeovers.
Yeah.
I didn't start it because that reason, but I know now every piece of her is involved in every program.
Yeah. Yeah. And the lessons that she imbued in you through doing all of that, you've expanded and you turned it into this incredible organization. and you're providing that platform for all these other women and children as well, which is incredible. So you mentioned the sacred sewing rooms. So one of your programs is in these shelters. You build a sewing room for women and children to learn how to sew and to make things. Um, what what does that process look like to build these sewing rooms, and what's some of the feedback that you've gotten?
Well, the shelter has to be willing to give up a room because we don't donate machines, we donate a program.
Yeah.
And it's the best of the best. It's brand new sewing machines. Obviously, they all have to match because the volunteer instructor has to teach on the same machine.
Yeah.
But it's bolts of fabric, the best of scissors and cutting boards, and you name it. It's the best classroom, so there's no frustration. We want the women to be successful in the program. It's all volunteer instructors, and it's really starting on the basics. So it could be you're making a pillowcase to making your decorative pillow. Some of the sacred sewing rooms, the women have made a quilt together.
Hmm.
Um, there was one woman in St. Louis, which my mother still has tears in her eyes. She said, it's so powerful. She made curtains for her future home. Now let's think about that. She was already claiming it. She
Yeah.
didn't have that home yet,
Right.
but she decided to make some curtains for it.
Yeah.
So that is one of the top of all stories that was shared. Of course, we encourage the instructors to encourage the women to give back to their community. They all say yes. No one ever says, I'm not going to do that. And it's making pillowcases for the local hospital. Some women have made dresses for girls in Africa,
Mm.
2 bibs for teen moms. That's how we grew up. My mother was big about giving back to her neighborhood. And she didn't ever say that's how I coped, was giving back. That's just naturally how she was. Is she worried about the children being fed?
Yeah.
So I just knew that had to be a part of the process for the women too. Is they had to be able to. There's a poem somewhere. It says about when you're hungry, you feed someone else. It goes through all the things that we might be struggling with, that we help someone else. And
Yeah.
so I knew that had to be part of the sewing room too.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like the women that choose to partake in that get so much out of it. Um, and also, what a great example to their kids when they're going through this really difficult time, to see their mom learn something new, take something on, and make things and give to other people when they're in such a time of need. That lesson is so powerful for their kids, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely. And
Yeah.
anything extra they've ever made, what we hear from the volunteer instructors is they always give it away. So
Mm.
it could be sent to their family or friends. I mean, when you don't have the finances, you automatically think, I could give this as a gift for the holidays. And we
Yeah.
also got the feedback that if one woman's falling behind, she gets a little like, I can't do this. It's that it's just that silence of just walking beside another woman to say, I can help you finish that project. I think that's so beautiful that
Yeah.
it's just women supporting women, no matter what 4 walls that you
Yeah.
live in.
Yeah. And learning to accept that help
Yes.
as well. I
Yes.
think, especially for women in modern society, I would say, but specifically the women in these shelters, it's probably really difficult to accept help, but it's important to be able to do that. So they've already taken this huge step and placed themselves in these shelters, and that's probably feeling like a lot for them. and then to accept more help on top of that. If they are getting behind on their projects and another woman volunteers to step in, that's probably difficult, but such a good experience to learn to accept that love without any strings attached to it.
Yes.
I mean, we could go on and on, I'm sure, about all of these lessons and moments that are magic that come out of the sacred sewing rooms. That's pretty
Yes.
powerful.
That's
Yeah.
that's where a lot of stories are shared. That's why I had to name it the Sacred Sewing Room. It's really a place to go and share and create
Yeah.
and know that you feel safe there.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's just one of the programs.
Mm-hmm.
What is another program?
We have our capes for kids. So
Capes
it's
for
not
Kids.
about
Yeah.
Superman. We have a sewing pattern and a no sew. So everyone can be involved. Even your children can make a cape. And the message is you have everything within you to be your own superhero. And that was just a mother sharing on the news years ago, telling her son to give it up. No one's going to come here and save us. So I began to cry, but I wiped my tears and said, okay, reach out and see if someone can make 25 capes. So I went on social media. A woman from North Carolina reached back and said, I'll make the 25 capes. So she shipped them here to Michigan, and I went to my local shelter, and the kids just came to life. They started twirling and singing, and I like instantly said, this has to be one of our programs. I never thought it would go viral. I just, what are tears if there's no action?
Yeah.
So I knew I had to take action. I had to do something to change that message, what I heard. And it has. I mean,
Yeah.
from paint companies wanting to put the message on their can of paint to Hilton brand, the employees making capes. That was never obviously my intention. It was just that I have to take action, even if it's the tiniest, just 25 capes. And that's
Yeah.
why I encourage to people is it doesn't have to, don't think it has to be so huge. I didn't think that way. It has become viral, but that wasn't my intention.
Yeah. Yeah. So these capes for kids, you mentioned there's, if you go to your website, you have patterns. You have a no-sew pattern and you have a sewing pattern. So anybody, no matter what your skill, can partake. I think you've
Yes.
mentioned in the past that some schools, elementary schools and stuff, they've participated. Their students are making these capes for other kids.
Mm-hmm.
And some hotel chains, the Hilton brand, they've participated, sent in a bunch of stuff. Um, is there an impactful story that has come out of that? Have any kids said anything?
Um, yes, there was a mother that shared with me her daughter at the time when they went in the program, she was about 3. She's now obviously, I mean, they went obviously through, they made it successfully through the program and then went on their own. And I kept in contact with her, and she shared how her daughter kept her cape hung in the closet. And then by that time, she was in 5th grade. She brought it for show and tell.
Oh,
She shared about the power of the cape and what it meant to her. You just never know. It's not, I don't think we should ever overthink of, well, it's way more than fabric. It's a message we're sending to all the children. And obviously it made an impact on her to save it all those years. And then she wanted to talk about, obviously she probably shared her story too. That one stands out to me the most,
mm-hmm.
is that one. Yeah.
Yeah. As you were speaking, it made me think of, you know, with these capes, these kids are learning to be their own superhero, that they have it within themselves. In these
Yes.
hard moments, they can dig that out. Uh, but they're also witnessing their moms do the same thing and be the same way. Um, and that's pretty powerful in itself.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah. They can, I'm sure, um, I'm sure there's some difficult relationships and moments, challenging moments for moms and kids when they're going through these transitions. And so for kids to be able to witness that in themselves and then see that and reflected in their mom of being their own superhero, that perspective change is probably so powerful for their dynamic.
Yeah, some of the children. There was one. It was a boy that shared with his mom, "Where is your cape?" So obviously, we had some laying on the table. The children are able to pick. They pick whatever cape they want,
Yeah.
and she put one on, and it's a powerful message,
Yeah.
and I hope it stays in every child's heart. And that message is obviously for all children
Yeah.
and adults.
Yeah.
That message is for adults too.
Yeah.
So as you're creating that cape, I hope that ignites something in your heart. Not only do you feel that childlike, because how can you not smile when you make a cape?
Yeah.
It's just a fun project,
Yeah.
and it's going to another child, to remind them that you can start today, right now. You have everything within you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So another program that you have for the kids is a doll program. And
Yes.
you have patterns on your website for fabric dolls and some other dolls. I believe no sew and sew, right? Or is it just sewing?
Well, we recommend to use any pattern you want for the
Yeah.
doll adoption. So it's if you crochet, a crochet doll is good. Knit. We have felt dolls. We have the panel dolls. It's totally up to you.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's
amazing.
just from me as a little girl and how much dolls meant to me. Because when I was taking care of my doll, I was taking care of myself.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a no-brainer to start this program too, because I'm like, well, the children have to have dolls. I mean, it was important that when I went to bed that my dolls were all tucked in and they felt cozy, and their arms, no arm was like sticking up here, because I'm like, oh, they must feel uncomfortable. That's the same message that I wanted to and still do to give to children is, I mean, there's therapists that use dolls, and during therapy. So,
Yeah.
um, so
Yeah.
that was
It
no
yeah.
brainer to
It
add.
helps the dolls, I'm sure, help kids process all the changes happening in their life um, and work through things. Which
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So when a child receives a doll, what does that look like? Do they get to pick what doll they choose, they want? What does that look like?
Yes. All the dolls are laid out. And it's whatever doll they get to pick. We never handed a cape or a pillowcase or a doll to a child. They get to pick what they want.
Amazing. And you just brought up the pillowcases. That's another program that you have,
Yes.
which is also fantastic for um, crafters of all skill level. So the pillow and the pillowcases, for some reason, have really stuck in my mind because of the reason behind specifically the pillowcase. So tell us about the pillowcase program.
It's called the traveling pillowcase, and it's not the travel size. It's
Right.
just a standard size pillowcase. The message is, we moved 12 times. We were all over the place. And that was I'm sure it was hard on my brothers and sisters. It was hard on me mentally. And I just remember going to bed at night and I'm like, wow, I can travel anywhere I want in my mind. And that was how I coped. And I'm like, we've got to have traveling pillowcases that the children are reminded, and the moms, because people make pillowcases for the moms, that's a coping skill. That's a
Yeah.
powerful tool, is your mind. And when you go to bed at night or take a nap, or any place you can use, you don't even have to even be taking a nap, is that this is another tool that I want you to be reminded that you have. And that's the message behind the traveling pillowcase.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think another component to that too that you've shared is oftentimes these kids, they're moving a lot and they don't often get to bring a lot with them. But a pillowcase, they don't necessarily always bring the pillow with them, but the pillowcase they can bring with them wherever they go.
Oh, absolutely. I
Yeah.
mean, obviously they could put some items into it too if they
Yeah.
want.
Yeah.
It's multiple ways you could use it.
Yeah.
But that message, I hope it stays with the moms and their children for their entire life, because there's no expiration on your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is a very, very powerful tool. Very powerful tool. So to go along with the capes and the dolls and the pillowcases, you have a couple of children's books that have come out recently, which is so
Yes.
cool. Tell us about those.
Um, I have, I have the first book that came out. It was, that's where, so blessed. It's called The Little Bear Who Loved Its Handmade Dolls. And the first time it was featured was on the Kelly Clarkson show. She shared that during the interview with me. And obviously that's about the doll adoption. And
Yeah.
it's just a love story. It really is a love story of a bear that adopts the two dolls. And the bear just shares with the dolls about how beautiful they were created, with every stitch and every piece of yarn. And why that process, while he's doing that, he's preparing breakfast for his dolls. So that kind of, and at the end of the book, it's awareness. So it shares that this is a program for children in shelters, and really encourage people if they want to make a doll. The second book is The Little Bluebird Who Forgot It Could Fly. So obviously birds know how to fly, but this bird forgot.
Yeah.
And it's about the capes for kids. And this little bird just goes on a journey through storms and hills and valleys, and wondering, why are my friends flying and I'm walking? And really the story is that, again, you have everything within you. You can fly. The little bluebird, you can fly. It finds a cape on the path, and it's just excited because it fits so perfect. And he's like, I think this was made just for me. And another reminder for that grandmother that's reading that story, or the mom. I hope it reminds her that's reading it, or the grandpa, to the child. And then obviously the back of the book is, we encourage you, if you would like to make a cape for a child in a shelter.
Yeah.
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 Yes.
Those are
And the
adorable.
third will be out. The third book will be out, and we thought it would be this month, but it's going to be in June. And
Sure.
that's on the traveling pillowcase.
Amazing.
Yes.
Can you
I
share a
never
little
thought
bit
that
about
would
that?
happen.
I know. Do you want to share a little bit about the traveling pillowcase one?
Yeah, it's just a little porcupine and its traveling pillowcase, because porcupines, which my mom was excited because she says, no one ever, you really don't hear much about porcupines in stories.
No.
You just don't. It's
Yeah.
the bear, it's the cat, it's and I just like, well, I'll love them. I'll bring them in the story. And his two friends, he has two friends, which is the bear and the bird. So they come into the story too.
Fun. Yeah.
And it's just the porcupine that realizes the power. He gets a pillowcase in the mail. The bear brings the little package to his bedroom window and says, you have a package, and discovers it's a pillowcase. And wow, it's so colorful. And realize when it goes to bed, he can't wait to go to bed, and just starts discovering the power of his mind and all the things that it's kind of hard for a porcupine to play with balloons. But he can with the power of his mind.
Yeah.
So it's that whole journey that he gets to play with all these balloons and all the adventures he goes on. And the moral of the story is he wonders if his friends know the power of their mind.
Oh. Yeah.
And then obviously the back is another awareness we hope someone would make a pillowcase.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
It really goes, the intention of the books is to take people deeper, to understand it's way beyond, yes, it's important the child has that cape on, they're touching the doll, but to go even deeper of just how psychologically, how important these programs are for the children.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that these books are for all children, right? They're not
All
just for the
ages.
children in these programs and in these shelters. They're for all children.
Yes.
Which is,
Yes. And the best adult book is a child's book.
Yeah.
Did you know that? Yes.
I believe it.
So
Yeah.
it's for adults when they're reading. I hope that it plants a seed in the adult's heart and reminds them too of their strength, their inner strength, the power of their mind. Yes.
Yeah. And all these books, the third one not yet, but soon, are available on Amazon for purchase.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're on the website too.
On the website, yeah.
Yes, and that link goes to Amazon.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Incredible. Man, what a wild ride, especially within the last couple years. It sounds like a lot of new ideas have been coming to you and new opportunities with that as well. So you just mentioned you were on the Kelly Clarkson show earlier this year, right?
It was February 6th is when it aired. Yes.
Yeah. So what was how did that happen? What was that like for you?
Well, they've been following us for a year. So
And you didn't know that, did you?
No, I didn't know that. So the producer said, I've been following you for a year. And I said, so you've been stalking us. And she laughed. It was all in fun. And she said, I just love your doll adoption program. And from there, it just took off to just having a volunteer share her making dolls and the impact it did because of her daughter committing suicide.
Ugh.
She honored her daughter by making dolls and making sure those dolls go to teen. They end up going to teen girls. And she thought maybe she didn't know the age group. But they all embraced the dolls. They started naming their dolls. Mm-hmm. They were fixing their outfits. She just shared her story, and the girls just started sharing about the loss of their family members. And they just all started crying together. And that's what Enchanted Makeovers is that full circle, that we have so many things more in common than we don't have in common. It's just the four walls are different.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we do that on purpose. I have that little tagline on the website that says, she is me. And people automatically assume I didn't go through domestic violence, or I didn't go, thank God, through human trafficking. I said, we've all went through something or battle with something. I said, isn't that enough to say she is me? That's all it is.
Yeah.
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 And that's walking beside people. It's not here to save anyone. We're just walking beside you. We're going through stuff ourselves, and we have so much we can learn from each other. Yeah.
I think that often becomes forgotten when you're thinking about people that are going through these programs, and you're thinking about donating or contributing in some way, that you feel like you're giving too, which you are, but the bigger message is that you're walking alongside these people.
And that is at your machine. You're walking beside another mother.
Right.
Yes. And obviously we know that we're not physically, but that's when you hear those words, it's, you can visually see that, but when you make that doll for her child, or make that pillowcase for her, or make a quilt, you're walking beside in the most powerful way, which I believe is handmade.
Yeah.
Because I believe handmade is healing. You feel the love. And when someone makes you something, you just don't get that off the shelf at the store.
Yeah.
I've never felt it. I mean, it might be something cute you see at the store, but when someone makes me something, I can feel the love from that item.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's so crucial that we always, whatever we can do, and provide handmade to the moms and their children, or take grandma's old dresser and love it back to life with a beautiful color.
Yeah.
And it only makes sense to be able to do it this way, because that's how my mother loved her
Yeah.
children and still love her children.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you feel, I mean, the whole, what do I want to say? The whole meaning behind a lot of what you do is handmade love. Um, from your experience, do you feel like the handmade items being received is different than if somebody was to, let's say, donate a bunch of purchased dolls? Because that's what a lot of organizations do is they accept these large donations of purchased dolls or secondhand dolls, gently loved previously.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like there's a difference between those items versus these handmade items?
You mean far as the children's reaction, or
Or the meaning, and for the
I
moms
just,
too.
we
Yeah.
always share with, it's always shared about how much love is, what I can only go back with the feedback is what the women have shared and what they've witnessed for the children, is that no one's have never had made anything for them.
Mm,
And they didn't need to know obviously how many hours it took. It just, you just witness it when you see a woman take a quilt and wrap herself with it instantly and start crying. Is, you just don't get that in a bed in a bag.
yeah.
It's, I can only share that's how my mother loved her children. That's how she coped.
Yeah.
Um and that's how I will continue to love people back to life and to love them during their journey, is just to provide what was given to me
Yeah.
and how it felt.
Yeah.
That's the only way I know of. And I think that's, for me personally, I think that is the best way.
Yeah.
I still believe that till today. It's just not the same from something from the store.
Mm-hmm.
And I
It
mean,
sounds like what I'm hearing. It sounds like if they were given something like a bed in a bag from a store, that is survival, right? That is, they're grateful for that because they need it. It provides a lot for them. But if it's handmade, they feel the love. They feel loved.
it's a different message. I mean, I
Yeah.
know we all need a blanket. I agree
Yeah.
with you. We all need something to cover up with. I'm just not, I don't know how to serve from that place, because that's
Yeah.
not how I was loved.
Yeah.
I can only give how I was loved, and that's why I feel I've been called. Is, I really feel that God has written a job description exactly for me. I didn't know at the time because I was fighting and going back to my business. Is, you know how it feels. You know, it's all those things I've just served from that place.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not rocket science. Some people are like, this is, how do you, it's just, I'm passionate about it. And as you being someone who loves handmade, people that love to create and crafters, they just give 110% of themselves because they love to do that. And everyone wins. I mean, women that are creating stuff, they're also sharing with me how they're battling with either cancer, or they're battling with domestic violence, or a family member is going through horrible. So that's their healing process, is to create, but they're also giving that away to someone else.
Yeah.
Everybody wins with this.
Yeah. That's pretty incredible. You, your whole program is very full circle.
Yes.
You've mentioned, we were just talking about crafters creating these things to give to these women in shelters that come there from horrific circumstances, um, human trafficking, domestic violence, veterans, right? Really, really, really tough things to heal through. And so we're crafters, we're giving these things to them. But in turn, they're also inspired to craft themselves with these sacred sewing rooms, and they're inspiring the children around them, all these things, and they're giving that away too.
Yes.
It's just
It's just all, the whole entire program and mission evolves around keeping our hands busy, serving from our heart, which in return turns out to be something handmade, or loving grandma's treasures back to life.
yeah.
It's
Your
all,
mom, your mom says something when you first reached out to me, and I forgive me, I don't remember the quote. This is the only time I've forgotten what the quote is. Your mom speaks about keeping her hands busy.
yes, she still believes that till today. She said idling hands are dangerous. She said, if you're going through a hard time, when my kids were little, I'd call her and say, they're driving me nuts. And I'm like, she said, go pull weeds, go clean the toilet, keep your hands busy. And she still, that's never left me. It's, there's nothing wrong with going out and pulling some weeds in the garden.
Yeah.
It really does. I mean, it's good, obviously, to be out in fresh air in the sun,
Yeah.
but you're taking care of your home, and that's another way of coping.
Yeah.
Her hands are busy with, like, she's working on her doll houses. She's
Yeah.
making more dolls, and yeah.
Yeah. Busy hands, calm mind. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's times, obviously, we're human, we need to rest.
Yeah.
We need to go take a nap, and that's okay. But I think there's a lot of times that we're like, oh, we got to keep our hands busy, because
Yeah.
I don't know if my head's going to explode.
Yes. Yes. Busy hands, it allows you to process things in a much different way.
Yes.
You're
I
you're
remember
tending
that.
to
I mean, I
something.
remember the kids
Yeah.
were driving me nuts, and I would just start like scrubbing counters and clean the kitchen. And I'm like, wow, the kitchen's clean. And I was able to handle that situation.
Yeah.
So, and sometimes it doesn't work, but sometimes it does. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So what's next for Enchanted Makeovers?
what's next? Well, we're obviously have this big, I can't share all the details, but something quite big is in the future. It's going to be one of our largest projects.
Mm,
I can only share that much.
yeah.
I do want to work on my own personal book about my whole journey. I've
Yeah.
kept files on it of all the divine appointments and divine timing, and that's in the works.
Good.
I do have some partnerships with large companies. I can't share that either yet,
Yeah.
but it's just been a journey of, I never thought it would evolve into collaborating with companies and their brands, and just bringing more awareness. It's That wasn't my intention. It was just, like I said, it was just saying yes and not knowing how it would happen. I just took that leap, and I think that's a good piece to end with sharing with anyone that sees this interview is we don't have to have all the answers.
Yeah.
We just need to put footsteps to our prayers and take action. And that's whatever dream you have. It doesn't have to be a nonprofit.
Yeah. Yeah. That's incredible. I mean, everybody should be reminded of that. I think that's really hard to remember, especially when you're facing something um, as small as, I have this idea in my head to design something, a little crochet project or what have you, or, I want to plant a couple plants, and the steps that you think you need to go through really can weigh you down and hinder you and keep you from doing it. But
Yeah.
taking those first couple steps,
Yes. And the
even
first
without
steps
the
could be
answers.
writing stuff down. I'm big
Yeah.
about writing down what's on my heart.
Yeah.
I've been like that since I was a little girl.
Yeah.
Sticky notes everywhere. I still have to, I think it's just power. And when you write it down, it feels more solid.
Yeah.
So I would actually share that with everyone is write it down.
Yeah.
And even if you're a stay at home mom, which I think is one of the most important things, because um, I had other things I wanted to do too. I mean, as the kids went to bed, I was working on a quilt, my first quilt, and I was pregnant for my fourth child. And that quilt I ended up giving to my mother. My first quilt, I gave
Oh,
a queen size quilt I made, I gave to her. But
gosh, you must have been so thrilled with that.
oh yeah, I remember on my hands and knees, and I was doing the little knots with the yarn, because
Yeah.
that's my mom does it. She doesn't do all the. I'm not really a quilter. I said, Mom, you are, stop that. But that's what I was doing. So I had this belly. I don't know how far along I was, and I was just on my hands and doing all the kids were in bed, and I had Rachel Ashwell. That was the '90s, so that was shabby chic, and she was on, and I would listen to her and do my quilt, and
Oh,
never thought that all that would just come to a national headquarters. I was just taking care of my children.
yeah.
I love my home, and just all grandma's treasures were in it, and handmade, and just led to this.
Yeah. Yeah. It's so incredible. A little bit more about your the program, Enchanted Makeovers. What areas do you serve currently?
Well, we got little pockets across the United States, so it's from Kentucky to New Jersey to Pennsylvania, Ohio. Obviously, all the handmade that we make goes out nationally. So we want to come to Michigan so we can make sure the pillowcase dolls and capes all three go to children. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why it's that process like that.
Yeah.
Um, but you know, we've gotten donations, people from Australia to Switzerland. Um, Singapore has written about us. Yeah,
That's
we
very
just keep
cool.
expanding, and I never felt I was called to have chapters. I just don't feel that on my heart. People have wanted us to,
Yeah.
but I'm like, no, no. A team goes out, and then we ignite that town or that city to be a part of it. And we hope when we leave, you will continue to do something with your local shelter. That's what I feel as I've been called to do it that way.
Yeah. Yeah. I I really love a common theme that I've heard um, through this whole chat with you is you are so in touch with your divine, with your
Yes.
calling, and it sounds like you're really grounded in your truth.
Yes.
And I think that's a huge part of the magic and what really sets this organization apart from many others. Um, and I love to hear that you're encouraging people to do that as well.
Yes. I think people are afraid. I mean, people have said, how did you have the courage to close your business and do this? And I said, I don't call it courage. I would have been denying what I was called from birth to do. And that's how I see it. So I don't see it as courage. I would have been denying that of myself.
Yeah.
it's just really just me. It's
Yeah.
just how I was loved and how I feel I can love people from this place. And there's people that go and they do outreach on streets, and that's what they're called to do. And I think it
Yep.
takes all the pieces of all of us to make it work.
Yep. Yeah. Because everybody receives things differently, right?
Yes, I think we
And
need all the pieces. We do need
yeah.
people out there and meeting people exactly where they're at, to when they get to the shelter, we have that piece there. And we have people that are about transitional to when they get to their apartment. We need all of it.
Yeah. Yeah. And you have a lot of incredible messages to share, uplifting things to really just encourage people to be themselves.
Yes. Yes.
And that comes from lived experience from you. It comes from watching your mom and hearing her stories, and a large part of it comes from creating relationships with the women that you partner with and walk alongside in
Yes.
these shelters, and in those phases of their lives where they need it. There's so much to learn from them as well. That
Yes. We're all teachers and students in life.
yeah, yeah.
Yes.
One story I've heard you talk about from going back way to the beginning of that very first shelter that you took part in and transformed. Or there, I guess there was two that stick out in my mind from hearing previous interviews that you've done. Is one mom commented on the floor, and then might have been the same mom or another mom commented on just the simple act of being able to make her kids, I think, breakfast, which is a
Yes.
common
It
theme
was.
that drives you. And you mentioned it in your book, right? Making the one of the children's books, they're making breakfast for their dolls. So tell
Yes.
us about those stories.
Well, her name was Donna, and she made it through the 1 year program. And I asked her one day, I said, what are you looking forward to the most? Because you're going now to transitional. And she said, to make my children tomato soup and a grilled cheese sandwich.
Mm, mm-hmm.
And it's funny, I just recently my mother-in-law gave it to me. She said, I'm going to throw it out if you don't want it. It's a huge tin can, and it's Campbell's tomato soup can. So I have it on the back porch of the headquarters with flowers in it.
Yeah,
And it reminds me of Donna.
yeah,
And that just came into my life just like a week ago, that can.
that's amazing.
I know. I
Yeah,
should find like a fake little grilled cheese
yeah,
that I can leave outside, and I'll stick it in like the little flowers with
yeah,
it. Because to me, it's something I know what it means, what it stands
yeah,
for. Just teaching that whole simplicity. And because transitional, there's only a couple women in that apartment or that house
yeah.
instead of 30 in a dorm. So that one stood out a lot. Another
Mm.
woman saw me because I visited the shelter a couple times afterwards, and a woman came through the door and she was running down the hall and she grabbed me and started hugging me, and I said, how's it going? What's going on? She says, I can now see the light coming through the windows. And I'm like, wow, that's it. It's I don't know. I don't need to explain that at all. It's just so powerful. It's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's yeah.
yeah.
And the floor was very bad. I mean, it was just old carpet. I mean, it was a post office where the women stayed. And she said, we won't stay on this floor. It's too disgusting. And that was one of the big things, was to redo the floors. And I wanted to install a radio system in there because music is healing. So that was a big thing every morning, that the women had to make their beds and to straighten up the dorm. And just getting that feedback as we were done, how the music as they're cleaning the rooms in the dorm, and it was just all how my mom always was playing something. It was on the radio. It was either, Cat Stevens as she's, vacuuming or mopping the floors. And I'm like, there's nothing, it's not rocket science. It's just, I'm like, well, maybe the women want to listen to some music as they clean the dorm.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the floors, they now are, they shared how they're now sitting on the floor with their children. And that was my visual through the whole process before the dorm was transformed, was visualizing the women laughing and smiling. I never visualized the dorm being done. It was the power of the emotion of how they would feel when it was done. That was my dream every night. So I went to bed, I could see the smiling faces and I could hear the women and children laughing. And I stuck to that until that whole dorm was finished. And I still believe in that today. I still do that to a visual, to the headquarters that we've had for years. I never knew what we would receive. I just visualized how it would make people feel.
Yeah.
When they walked in, they would feel like a child again, and that innocence, that childlike faith.
Mm-hmm.
And I still believe it's really about how it feels in the experience. We shouldn't have to think so much about what is all the details as far as, I was just claiming that we're going to get something donated for our headquarters.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so incredible. And something important, if anybody listening is going to now go act and create and donate to your programs, is keeping that intention when they're creating whatever they're making, a pillowcase, a cape, a doll, what have you, is imagining the feeling that the receiver is going to have upon receiving your make.
And those people that pray over, or they share that, they send me little letters that they've prayed over the stuff that they've made, and they wanted me to know that. And they leave little notes about how special, you just encouraging notes that they attach to their handmade items. And yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you're really open to different makes, crochet dolls, different types of fabric for the pillowcases,
Yes.
and different messages, and really giving freedom to people that want to make and feel called to
Yes.
participate, which is really special. Yeah.
Yes. We encourage that a lot with all the programs. Some people make pillowcases with pockets, and has a little doll stuffed in the little pocket.
Oh.
And then there's capes that we want obviously to be creative and decorate how you want. To the dolls, it's there's not a lot of, like, people are surprised because we don't have it stuck that this is exactly how because when you're creative and you make handmade, you have to be able to be a part of that.
Yeah.
We all know that is,
Yeah.
you have to put your touch on it and what you thought of yourself. And that's just, I know that. So,
Yeah.
but obviously we know that there is a pattern there for the cake, but we want you to decorate how you want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love it so much. So if somebody's listening and they want to become involved, what's your suggestion for them? Send them to your website. What do they do?
Just go to enchantedmakeovers.org and just reach out to us. Tell us about yourself and what do you love to do. Are you a podcaster? Do you love to write? Just serve from that place. We're on Instagram, Enchanted Makeovers, to Facebook, Enchanted Makeovers. And if you want to follow and be encouraged for your own life, if you want to be a part of it, that's okay with us too. Yeah.
Yeah. And you've you shared with me previously, which I won't spill any beans. You've got some really big things coming up. So I
Yes.
encourage everybody to go follow you on Instagram and cheer you on. You've got some really big, exciting things coming around the corner.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, very big and very amazing ideas, and just so meaningful. And um, I'm cheering you on. I
Oh,
love it.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Terry, it was so wonderful having you on today. I'm glad we finally got this recorded.
Yes.
It's been a journey.
Uh-huh.
And is there anything else you'd like to share before we go?
I'm just very grateful that you said yes, and now you've become a messenger.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
All right. I'm going to stop.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to the Young Granny Show. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and share with your fellow old souls. Until next time, keep embracing your inner granny.